Today is the 13th of October 2025. The day before yesterday, I spoke about samadhi, concentration. I discussed its characteristic, function, and the first manifestation. At the end of the talk, I began explaining the three types of elimination and the two types of samadhi. The first samadhi gained through tranquility meditation, and the second samadhi gained through vipassana meditation. I explained that a practitioner of tranquility meditation focuses on a single object, excluding all other objects, and this object is a conceptual object, not ultimate reality, because the purpose of tranquility meditation is simply to develop concentration. In contrast, a vipassana meditation practitioner observes various objects as they arise during practice. These objects are considered ultimate realities. Since the objective of vipassana is to develop insight knowledge and eventually attain path fruition knowledge, since the samatha meditation practitioner has only one object to be observed, they continuously focus on that meditation object, always keeping it in view. Through this sustained observation, the practitioner develops the preliminary concentration, followed by access concentration, or also known as neighboring concentration, before entering the deepest level of concentration, known as absorption or fixed concentration. At this stage, the mind is consistently and firmly fixed on the meditation object. A common misunderstanding among many meditators is that they believe that concentration is present only when they can observe one object continuously for a long period of time. For example, when they are able to observe the rising and falling of the abdomen or the movements of the feet continuously and clearly, they assume that they have concentration. Otherwise, they think their concentration is lacking. As a result, during interviews, they often report something like, my concentration is no good, or I have no concentration, simply because they couldn't stay with a single object continuously. This reflects a limited understanding of how concentration arises and functions, especially in the context of Vipassana meditation, where the observation of changing phenomena, not just one static object, is essential. If you are practicing tranquility meditation, then your assumption might be correct that continuous attention on a single object indicates strong concentration. But this is Vipassana meditation, and the nature of concentration here is different. In Vipassana meditation, meditators develop khanika samadhi, or momentary concentration. And this type of concentration arises moment by moment in connection with each object that appears. And it depends on the strength of mindfulness. When mindfulness is strong and continuous, momentary concentration is also present and effective. And don't forget the characteristic and function of concentration, which I mentioned in the previous talk, whether it's momentary concentration or absorption concentration. Its characteristic is non-dispersion or non-scatteredness, meaning the mind is not distracted or is spread out over multiple objects. Its function is to collect or unify the associated mental factors, including the mind itself, onto the meditative object. So even in Vipassana meditation, when your mindfulness is strong and the mind is clearly aware of the rising object, be it the rising and falling, a pain, a thought, or any other phenomenon, concentration is already present, doing its job. It doesn't have to be long or continuous on one object. It just needs to be well applied in each moment. So concentration in Vipassana does not mean keeping the mind fixed on the same object continuously. So remember this one, not not keeping the mind fixed on the same object continuously, as in samatha meditation. Rather, it means maintaining consistent mindfulness and clarity with each object as it arises moment by moment. So when meditators truly understand this, they no longer feel discouraged when the object changes frequently or when the attention moves from one phenomenon to another. In fact, this is exactly what is supposed to happen in Vipassana meditation, because the practice is about observing the reality of impermanence, reality of uh, non-control and non-self as it naturally unfolds. This is a core. There is a core principle in the practice of vipassana that captures this well. In Pali, it is mentioned as yatha pakata vipassana bhiniveso. Yatha pakata vipassana bhiniveso means one should engage in insight meditation according to how phenomena appear. Or this means that the practitioner does not need to control or manipulate what arises in many meditation. Instead, they observe whatever appears exactly as it is. So observing the observe, whatever appears exactly as it is, whether it's a bodily sensation, a mental thought, a feeling, or a distraction, all are valid objects for insight as long as they are observed mindfully and with concentration. And the practice is not about selecting or holding onto a specific experience, but about developing clear seeing into the true nature of all phenomena. And another important clarification is this: even when you are observing something like the rising and falling of the abdomen, it is not just one single object. Uh, Rising is one object, the rising is one object, and the falling is another. Then the next rising is already a new object, and so is the next falling. So each movement is distinct. Each arises and passes away, and therefore each must be observed as it is in the present moment. The same applies to walking meditation. Although your attention may remain generally on the movement of the feet, it's not just one unchanging object. A right step is one object, A left step is another, and the next right step is again a new object, and so on. So each step is freshly arisen, impermanent, and needs to be known as such. This becomes even clearer when you begin to practice in more detail, such as in the second or the third stage of walking meditation, where the movements are broken down further, like lifting, dropping, or lifting, pushing, dropping. At that level, it's even more obvious that you are not staying with one object, but rather with a continuous flow of changing phenomena. But despite the continuous changing of object, if you can observe each object without missing, then momentary concentration becomes very powerful. If you observe continuously without missing, then momentary concentration becomes very powerful. A single moment of concentration might not seem strong on its own. It may feel like too brief or insignificant, but when these moments are developed in a continuous or unbroken flow, their cumulative strength becomes remarkable, powerful. It's like a single swing thread or a strand of spider's web. Individually, they seem weak and fragile, but when many such strands are woven together, they become surprisingly strong and resilient. In the same way, each moment of momentary concentration may appear weak in isolation, but when sustained with steady mindfulness, it becomes a powerful force supporting deep insight and wisdom. So, if you want to develop continuous and steady concentration similar to the fixed concentration found in tranquility meditation, then the key is to observe objects continuously without missing any. So this is the key, a key to develop the continuous and steady concentration similar to fixed concentration. For example, when practicing sitting meditation, observe the rising and falling of abdomen continuously, one rising, one falling, followed by another rising and another falling, staying with it, object by object, without gaps. When the mind is, when mind wanders or thoughts arise, note them promptly at the right time. If sensation appear, observe the sensation. In walking meditation, the same principle applies. Keep observing each step or each movement, like lifting, moving, and placing one after another with mindfulness. Don't allow gaps in awareness during daily activities, from the most major action to minor ones. Keep observing every action as it happens without break. When, when this continuity of mindfulness is maintained, then your concentration becomes continuous and steady. Even though the objects themselves are consistently changing, that's the nature of vipassana. The objects are impermanent, but the mindfulness and the concentration remain unbroken. The mindfulness and the concentration remain unbroken. This is how the momentary concentration, when developed continuously, gains great strength and stability, just like fixed concentration, but rooted in the clear seeing of changing reality. Only when you are able to maintain this unbroken, continuous mindfulness will you begin to suppress the defilement for more than just a brief moment. With consistent observation, moment after moment, your momentary concentration becomes strong enough to keep the defilements at bay, not just temporarily, but for extended periods of time. Suppose, for example, when you observe the rising as rising and momentary concentration is present, the defilements are eliminated for that moment. Then, when you observe the falling as falling and concentration is present again, the defilements are eliminated for another moment. That means now you have two consecutive moments where defilements were held at bay. If you continue with the next rising and falling, that becomes four moments of elimination. Then if you observe the third set of rising and falling, that makes it 6 moments where the mind was free from defilements. In this way, each moment of mindfulness observation supported by momentary concentration is a moment where the unwholesome mental states are suppressed, and as long as you maintain this continuous unbroken observation of the present object, the sequence of defilement The sequence of defilement-free movements extends, strengthening both here concentration and insight. And the same principle applies during walking meditation and even throughout your daily activities, whatever you are observing, the lifting, moving and placing of the feet in walking, or actions like washing your hands, eating, reaching, turning, or speaking. Each moment of the each moment of clear mindfulness, supported by momentary concentration, is a moment where defilements are temporarily eliminated. For example, in walking meditation, if you observe lifting with mindfulness and concentration, this is one moment free of defilements. Then you observe moving, another moment of elimination. Then placing, another moment of another moment of elimination. That's three consecutive moments where the mind is purified and collected. If you continue this process consistently, you multiply the moments of purity one after another, just as in sitting meditation. The same applies during daily activities. If you are washing your hands and observe the motions of reaching, touching, turning the tap, filling the water, each clearly observed movement becomes a mindful moment, and each moment suppresses the defilements. And as long as this continuity is maintained, the moments of mental purification extend. So no matter what posture or activity you are in, sitting, walking, standing, or engaging in daily life, the opportunity for practice is always present. And with unbroken mindfulness, momentary concentration grows stronger, and the chain of defilement-free moments become longer and more powerful. And the longer concentration keeps the mind free from defilements, the farther away those defilements remain. In other words, when mindfulness and momentary concentration are maintained continuously over time, not only are defilements suppressed in each moment, but uh, their power, their power to re-enter the mind gradually weakens. Just like when you keep a fire on lit for a long time, the wood becomes cool and less likely to reignite easily. Similarly, when defilements such as greed, anger, restlessness, or delusion are kept at bay for extended periods through strong continuous mindfulness, they lose momentum. They lose momentum and their tendency to arise diminishes. That's why the longer concentration is sustained, the deeper the suppression of the defilements become, the longer it takes for them to return, the more distant and inactive they feel, like embers covered by ashes. I repeat this one, the longer concentration is sustained, the deeper the suppression of the defilements become, the longer it takes for them to return, the more distant and inactive they feel. And again, the longer the mind is held in deep stillness, the more inert the defilements become. Just like muddy water settles and clears when left undisturbed, so too does the mind become pure and defilements inactive when held in unbroken mindfulness and collectiveness. To clarify this, think about a car. Think about a car engine or a piece of machinery. When it runs regularly and is well maintained, it stays active, responsive, and functional. The moving parts stay lubricated, the battery stays charged, and it starts easily. But when it is left unused for a long time, it becomes dull, rusty, and inert. The battery dies, oil thickens, and the parts seize up. It may even start, it may not even start without effort or repair. In the same way, when defilements like greed, anger, restlessness are fed regularly through unmindful actions and reactions, they stay strong, active, and dominant in the mind. But when the mind is held in deep and sustained concentration, those same defilements become inactive and inert, like an engine that's turned off and left alone. They are still present, of course, for sure, they are still present in latent form, but they are no longer functioning or influencing the system. They are no longer functioning or influencing the system. Experienced meditators know this through direct experience, Like in the early stages of practice, as soon as mindfulness is lost or the presently arising object is missed, defilements arise immediately. Because in the early stage of meditation practice, mindfulness is still weak and inconsistent. As a result, the moment mindfulness slips, even for an instant, or the currently arising object is not clearly known, defilements such as craving, aversion, restlessness, or delusion immediately arise. And this is not theoretical, it is something meditators observe again and again in real time. Why does this happen? Because defilements are not far away. They are not waiting in some distant future to arise. They are constantly loitering, hovering at the edge of our awareness, looking for any gap in attention to enter the mind. They need only the smallest opening, a moment of forgetfulness, a miss rising falling, a distracted glance for their influence to take hold. But as meditation deepens, even if mindfulness momentarily lapses, defilements no longer rush in. As mindfulness becomes more continuous and the concentration grows stronger, the mind develops a kind of momentum toward wholesomeness. So a kind of momentum toward wholesomeness develops even when the object is missed for a brief moment. The mind remains calm, balanced, and clear. Defilements do not arise, do not immediately arise because their underlying tendencies are weakened. The mind has become habituated to a wholesome framework, even without deliberate effort. So the mind has become habituated to a wholesome framework, even without deliberate effort. So this is precisely how even momentary concentration can hold defilements at bay, especially when developed consistently over time, like drops of water falling steadily. Small though they are, they can wear through stone. So this refers to the second type of elimination, not complete eradication, but a deeper temporary suppression of defilements more than just a fleeting moment of abandonment. And this is about the second type of elimination, Vikambana Pahana. In this context, The commentaries strongly emphasize that momentary concentration can keep defilements at bay, but only if the mind is not always overcome by the five hindrances. Only if the mind is not overcome by the five hindrances. If the mind is still hindered, even momentary concentration won't be stable or effective enough to restrain the defilements. So what are these hindrances? Before diving into them, I would first like to complete the explanation of the three types of eliminations. The third type of elimination is Samuchcheda Pahana. Samuchcheda Pahana, which means elimination through uprooting, or the complete and permanent removal of defilements, so they never arise again. This level of elimination is not achieved through concentration alone, nor through temporary suppression. It arises through wisdom, specifically through the direct realization that comes with the attainment of the noble path knowledges. At each stage of enlightenment, certain defilements are uprooted completely, never to return. This is why Samuchcheda Pahana is considered the most radical and final form of abandonment. We will likely talk more about this type of elimination later when we discuss wisdom in greater detail. Now let us return to the hindrances. What are the hindrances? In Pali, they are called Nivarana. They are called Nivarana, which means obstructions, obstacles, or coverings. They are mental factors. They are mental factors that halt, hinder, block, or obscure the mind, and they break the momentum of practice, preventing clarity, stability, and preventing the deepening of insight. These are not mere distractions. They actively obstruct progress on the path by weakening mindfulness, scattering attention, and fueling defilements. And they are five in kind. The first, known as Kama Chanda. Kama Chanda means sense desire. This is the craving for pleasurable experiences. on based on sense basis, through sense basis, like a sight, sounds, smell, taste, touch, and even at times mental thoughts. It pulls the mind outward, making it restless and unable to stay with the meditation object. The second one is Vyapada. Vyapada means ill will or aversion. This is anger or hatred or resentment or any form of mental resistance. It causes frustration, irritation, agitation, mental burning. When this is present, the mind cannot feel calm or settled. The third one is Nyanavudha, sloth and torpor. This is dullness. Dullness, heaviness of body and mind, lacking of energy. It leads to mental fogginess and lack of alertness in practice. I have already discussed much this Nyanavudha. Then fourth, the fourth is Udacha Kukucha, restlessness and remorse. Restlessness is scattered attention. Kukucha is remorse or the guilt over past actions. Together they cause the mind to be jumpy and unfocused. And the fifth, the last one is Vichikitsa, doubt. This is the skeptical doubt or inner confusion that questions the practice, the teacher, the teachings, or even one's own ability. It paralyzes the mind and prevents wholehearted effort. We will discuss more about these hindrances the day after tomorrow, and some of them I have already explained. We will discuss more the day after tomorrow. For today, having understood the importance of unbroken mindfulness and concentration, which can hold defilements at bay when developed consistently and not hindered by the five hindrances. May you all be able to protect your mind from hindrances and develop sustained mindfulness and concentration and keep the defilements at bay.